You ever wonder what really separates the people who change their lives for good from, well, from the rest of us who just seem to get stuck in that same old cycle of starting and stopping? It's not about having more willpower, and it's definitely not about motivation. It's about having a system, a deeper one. We're going to get into this through a story of a guy named Nolan who figured out that real lasting change isn't about some grand heroic effort. Nope, it's about building on a foundation that most of us don't even know exists.
And that quote, it just nails the problem, doesn't it? We aim for this massive, life-altering transformation to happen overnight, but our brains, our bodies, they just can't handle it. It's too much, too fast. We're basically setting ourselves up to fail before we've even started.
So, let's talk about Nolan. At 19, he was just coasting. You know the type. Parties, sleeping in, zero plans for the future. Life was one big autopilot session, until it wasn't. Reality came crashing down when his dad got sick and couldn't work anymore. And suddenly, Nolan, the kid with absolutely no discipline, had to figure out how to support his entire family.
So what does he do? Exactly what we all do. He creates this crazy, totally unrealistic plan to become a completely different person in 24 hours. He was going to build that Ferrari from spare parts in the garage, waking up at 5 a.m., running, studying for hours, quitting all his bad habits cold turkey. He was just going to muscle his way into a new life.
3 days. Yeah, that's it. That's how long it took for the whole thing to just implode. He couldn't focus, his body was a wreck, and his brain was screaming for all the easy comforts it was used to. It was a harsh lesson. He had no internal structure, no system. He was a house without a foundation. So there he is at rock bottom, just mindlessly scrolling through videos, and he stumbles onto something that would change absolutely everything. It was a little video about a Japanese philosophy called Kaizen, and this was the moment he stopped trying to be perfect and just started trying to be a tiny bit better.
So what is Kaizen exactly? It's all about continuous improvement, but through these small, almost invisible incremental steps. Instead of trying to reinvent yourself, you just focus on one simple goal. Be 1% better today than you were yesterday. And that idea, it completely shifted Nolan's world.
Now check this out, because this is where the magic happens. Getting 1% better every day doesn't mean you're 365% better at the end of the year. Oh no. Thanks to the power of compounding, you're almost 38 times better. That is the insane hidden power of just showing up and making a tiny bit of effort consistently. So, Nolan threw his impossible plan in the trash. His new mission? Read 5 pages of a book before bed. That's it. It wasn't exciting, it wasn't something you'd brag about, but it was possible. And what he was about to learn is that possible is 1,000 times more powerful than perfect. And for the next 2 weeks, that's all he did. Read 5 pages. Some nights he'd almost forget, but he'd drag himself out of bed and do it. And a funny thing started to happen. It stopped being about the book. It started being about proving to himself, maybe for the first time ever, that he could actually keep a promise. He was building self-trust, brick by tiny brick.
In that one little habit, it wasn't just a habit. It was the key. It opened the door to a whole system for change. He ended up discovering these 8 core philosophies that, when you put them all together, create a framework that makes changing your life almost foolproof. Let's break them down.
All right, pillar number 1, atomic habits. James Clear made this famous. The main idea here is that real change isn't about your willpower, it's about your design. You design an environment and a system that makes good choices the easy choices. And this is the line you have to remember. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Okay, so if atomic habits is the what, the system you're building, then the second pillar, Shoshin, is the how. It means beginner's mind, and it's what saves you from that all or nothing trap. You wake up late one day, you didn't fail, you're just a student. You're learning. One bad day doesn't get to define who you are.
Now, a good system makes things easier, for sure, but it doesn't make every day easy. And that's where pillar 3 comes in, gammon. This is your inner grit. It's that quiet strength to just do the work, especially when you really don't feel like it. So while atomic habits designs the road, gammon is the fuel you use when that road gets steep.
So you've got your system, your mindset, and your grit. But how do you actually get good at this stuff? Pillar 4, Shuhari, is the roadmap. It's got 3 stages. First, you just follow the rules of your new system, no questions asked. Then, once you really get it, you can start to bend the rules a little, make them your own. And finally, The system just becomes a part of you. You don't even think about it. You are that new person.
But let's be honest, any system can start to feel like a grind. Pillar 5 is what turns that daily repetition into something beautiful. It's called Ichigo, and it means treating every single moment like it's a unique, once-in-a-lifetime experience. That boring walk you take every morning, it will never, ever happen in exactly the same way again. This way of thinking turns a routine into a ritual, and the process itself becomes the reward.
Of course, even with the best system in the world, you're going to stumble. Pillar 6 prepares you for that. It's Wabi-sabi. It starts with a simple fact. You will fail. You are going to miss a day. Wabi-sabi is about finding the beauty in that imperfection. It's the self-compassion that gives you the courage to just get back to it the next day with zero judgment.
And finally, the 7th pillar. Oh, and you could argue there are 8, with Kaizen being the first. This is the one that powers the whole engine. Ikigai, your reason for living, your purpose. When you have a real, genuine why, believe me, the how gets a whole lot easier. For Nolan, it wasn't some grand, world-changing vision. His why was simple. I want to be the kind of man my family can rely on. That's it. And a purpose that clear can fuel anything.
So after all that, what happened? What was the result? Well, Nolan's tiny, consistent actions, guided by all these interconnected ideas, they compounded. And over time, they led to a complete and total shift in his identity. It wasn't an overnight thing. It took about 3 years. It started with that crisis, the fall. Year 1 was just about taking that first tiny step. Year 2 was about building out the whole system. And by year 3, he wasn't just doing new things anymore. He was a new person. The transformation was real. And this is the ultimate lesson. He didn't need discipline to get up early or study anymore. Why? Because that's just who he was now. A person's identity doesn't need motivation. It just is.
So, let's just run through them one last time. The 8 pillars. Kaizen for the tiny steps. Atomic habits for the system. Shoshin for the beginner's mind. Gamen for the grit. Shuhari for the path to mastery. Ichigo for finding meaning in the moment. Wabi-sabi for self-compassion. And Ikigai for your ultimate purpose. So now the question isn't about Nolan. It's about you. Forget the giant, life-changing plan. What is the one single, ridiculously small habit you can commit to for just the next 2 weeks? Because proving to yourself that you can keep that one tiny promise, that's the first step. That's how you start building a new identity. So what's it going to be?